Question number 1. Consider the following features of Indian Constitution which are not taken from British Constitution. Answer: federal scheme, method of election of president. The feature of Indian Constitution borrowed from British Constitution are parliamentary government, rule of law, legislative procedure, single citizenship, cabinet system, prerogative writs, parliamentary privileges, and bicameralism. The feature of federal scheme and method of election of president has been taken from Government of India Act of 1935 and Irish Constitution respectively. Second question. Consider the following statements. The Indian Constitution does not recognize property right as the fundamental right. In the year 1977, the 44th Amendment eliminated the right to acquire, hold, and dispose of property as a fundamental right. However, in another part of the Constitution, Article 300A was inserted to affirm that no person shall be deprived of his property save by authority of law. The result is that the right to property as a fundamental right is now substituted as a statutory right. Question number 3. With reference to directive principles of state policy, consider the following statements. Directive principles of state policy aim to establish the welfare state, promote social and economic democracy. These are non-justiciable in nature and hence cannot be enforced by court of law. DPSPs are important as it allows the citizen to hold the government accountable in their policy formulation and implementation. Example: equality at work, minimum wage, etc. Thus, all the statements are correct. Question number 4. Right to protest is a fundamental right under which article? Answer: Article 19(1)(b). The right to protest peacefully is enshrined in the Indian Constitution, Article 19 of 1 clause A. A guarantees the freedom of speech and expression. Article 19(1)(b) ensures citizen to right to assemble peacefully and without arms. Question number 5. Right to freedom granted under Articles 19 to 22 cover which of these rights? Answer: right to freedom of speech, movement and expression, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. It consists of protection of right to freedom consists of protection of 6 rights regarding freedom of speech, expression, assembly, association, movement, residence and provision. That is Article 19. Protection in respect to conviction of offences, Article 20. Protection of life and personal liberty, Article 21. Right to elementary education, Article 21A. Protection against the arrest and detention in certain cases, Article 22. Right against exploitation, Article 23 to 24. Prohibition of traffic of human beings and forced labor, Article 23. Consider the following statements with respect to Article 21. Prohibition against self-incrimination. As an ex post facto law is one that imposes penalties retrospectively, that is, upon acts already done or which increases the penalties for such acts. The enactment of such law is prohibited by the first provision of Article 20. However, this limitation is imposed only on criminal laws and not on civil laws or tax laws. Prohibition against self-incrimination. This implies that no person accused of an offence shall be compelled by the state to bear witness against himself. Citizen right to own private property is a human right. Citizens' right to own property is a human right. The state cannot take possession of it without following due procedure and authority of law. The bench referred to an earlier verdict in State of Haryana versus Mukesh Kumar case, wherein it was held that the right to property is not only a constitutional or statutory right but also a human right. Question number 8. Opportunity for workers' participation in the management of industries is secured under which of the following? Answer: Directive Principles. Article 43A of the Constitution of India deals with participation of workers in management of industries and falls under Part 4 Directive Principles of State Policy. The state shall take steps by suitable legislation or in any other way to secure the participation of workers in the management of undertaking, establishment, or other organization engaged in any industries. Question number 9. With reference to Government of India Act 1935, consider the following statements. Some Indian women also had the right to vote for the first time. This act abolished diarchy at province and introduced diarchy at center. It gave special power to governors, principle of separate electorates, provincial autonomy, federal courts. Thus, which constitutional amendment act reduced voting age from 21 years to 18 years? Answer: 61st. The Constitution 61st Amendment Act 1988 lowered the voting age of elections to the Lok Sabha and to the legislative assemblies of the state from 21 years to 18 years. If financial emergency is declared, what is its impact on the relation between state and the center? Answer: the president can reduce the salaries of state civil servants, including those of the judges of the High Court. While the proclamation of financial emergency, that is under Article 360, is in operation, the center will give directions to the state to observe the specified canons of financial priority, to reduce the salaries and allowance of all class of persons serving in the state, including the High Court judge, and to serve all money bills and other financial bills for the consideration of the president. Question number 12. Which feature of Indian Constitution has borrowed from Germany? Answer: provision concerning suspension of fundamental rights during national emergency. Question number 13. Consider the following statement. The fifth schedule of the Constitution deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes. The sixth schedule deals with the administration of tribal areas in the four northeastern states: Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. Question number 14. Who among the following were not a part of drafting committee? Answer: N. Gopalswamy Iyengar, Muhammad Sadullah, N. Madhav Rao. 6. Dr. D.P. Kaithan. Drafting committee members: Chairman Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Members are N. Gopalswamy Iyengar, Muhammad Sadullah, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, K.M. Munshi, B.L. Mitra, substituted by the N. Madhav Rao following his resignation on health issues. Dr. D.P. Khaitan died in 1948 and was substituted by T.T. Krishnamachari. Sorry. Who among the following were the part of drafting committee? Drafting committee members are Chairman Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Members N. Gopalswamy Iyengar, Mohammad Sadullah, Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer, K.M. Munshi, B.L. Mitra, substituted by N. Madhav Rao, following his resignation on health issues. Sixth one, Dr. D.P. Khaitan, died in 1948 and was substituted by T.T. Krishnamachari. Question number 15. While a proclamation of emergency is in operation, the duration of Lok Sabha can be extended for the period of 1 year at a time. While a proclamation of a national emergency operation, the duration of the Lok Sabha may be extended beyond its normal term 5 years by a law of parliament for 1 year at a time. However, this extension cannot continue beyond a period of 6 months after the emergency has ceased to operate. Question number 16. The first effort at drafting a Dominion status constitution for India was made in response to the Simon Commission, when an unofficial constituent assembly was organized under Motilal Nehru and submitted its report known as Nehru Report. Question number 17. Take the case of dignity and equal right for women. How do democracies help? The empowerment of women and the establishment of gender equality are crucial to democracy. Democracy is as much about citizenship rights, participation and inclusion as it is about political parties, elections and checks and balances. The quality of democracy is determined not only by the form of institution but also by the extent that different social groups participate in these institutions. Question number 18. Article 365 lends legitimacy for the President's rule in a state under which of the following circumstance? The President's rule can be proclaimed under Article 356 on grounds one mentioned in Article 356 itself and another in says that whenever a state fails to comply with or to give effect to any direction from the center, it will be lawful for the President to hold that a situation has arisen in which the government of the state cannot be carried on in accordance with the provisions of the Constitution. Question number 19. Consider the following statement and choose the correct options from alternatives given below. In India, both the citizen by birth as well as naturalized citizens are eligible for the office of president, while in USA only a citizen by birth and not a naturalized citizen is eligible for the office of president. Question number 20. Which of the following ideas were taken from Canadian Constitution? The provision of federation with a strong center, residuary power of the center, appointment of state governors by the center, and advisory jurisdiction of the Supreme Court have all been borrowed from the Canadian Constitution. The concept of rule of law that's everyone is equal before law, even the ones making it. Article 14 of the Indian Constitution codifies the rule of law. It has been borrowed from British Constitution. Which of the following languages are not included in official language or in India under 8th schedule? Which of the following languages are included? The 22 languages in the 8th schedule are Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, Dogri, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, Maithili, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Odia, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Santali, Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu and Urdu. Question number 22. Consider the following statement. The preamble is based on objective resolution moved by Jawaharlal Nehru in the Constituent Assembly on December 13, 1946. Thus, through the Berubari case, the court stated that preamble is the key to open the mind of the makers, but it cannot be considered as a part of Constitution. Therefore, it is not enforceable in the court of law. As of now, the preamble is only amended once through the 42nd Amendment Act 1976. Sovereignty implies that India is free and has the authority to conduct its own affairs and governance. In India, the supreme power is possessed by the people of the country. The people of the nation elect their representatives to govern them. That is, the parliament derives its sovereignty from the people of the nation. Question number 23. Which of the following are considered as a part of basic structure of the Indian Constitution? It was the Keshavananda Bharati case that brought this doctrine into the limelight. It held that the basic structure of the Constitution could not be abrogated even by a constitutional amendment. The judgment listed some basic structure of the Constitution as supremacy of the Constitution, unity and sovereignty of India, democratic and republican form of government, federal character of the Constitution, secular character of the Constitution, separation of powers, individual freedom. Question number 24. With reference to the term secular, consider the following statements. Discrimination on the basis of religion is forbidden to the state. Equality is assured to all irrespective of religion. Freedom of faith, belief, and worship is allowed to all. The state is to be impartial towards all religion. Furthermore, the state does not uphold any particular religion as the state religion but protects all religions equally. What is unity of Trinity in the Indian Constitution? Unity of Trinity, principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Divorce are from the other. Divorce from one from the other is to defeat the very purpose of democracy. Without equality, liberty would produce the supremacy of the few over the many. Equality without liberty would kill individual initiative. Question number 26. With reference to Constitution Assembly, consider the following statements. The Cripps proposal were rejected by the Muslim League, which wanted India to be divided into two autonomous states with two separate constituent assemblies. Finally, the cabinet mission was sent to India. While it rejected the idea of two constituent assemblies, it put forth a scheme for the Constituent Assembly which more or less satisfied the Muslim League. Thus, the Constituent Assembly was constituted in November 1946 under the scheme formulated by the Cabinet Mission Plan. The Constituent Assembly was made a full sovereign body which could frame any constitution it pleased. In 1934, M. Roy first proposed the idea of the Constituent Assembly. Question number 27. Which of the following fundamental rights are available to non-citizens? Equality before law, protection of life and personal liberty. Some of the fundamental rights are available only to the citizens while others are available to all persons, whether citizens, foreigners or legal persons like corporations or companies. Fundamental rights available to both the citizens and foreigners except enemy aliens. Fundamental rights guarantees by Article 14, 20, 21, 21A, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28 are available to all persons whether citizens or foreigners. Equality before law and equal protection of law, Article 14, and protection of life and personal liberty, Article 21, are available to both the citizens and non-citizens. Question number 28. Which of the following sentences are true about the federal government? Federal government, a dual government, nation and regional government, written constitution, bicameral legislature, division of powers between both the governments, rigid constitution, supremacy of the constitution, independent judiciary. Question number 29. The Second Administrative Reform Commission 2005 was concerned with. The second ARC, that is Administrative Reform Commission, prepared a detailed blueprint to revamp the public administrative system. It submitted 15 reports to the government covering areas like RTI, ethics in governance, local governance, terrorism, public administration, e-governance, financial management, so on. The second ARC, constituted in 2005, was chaired by Veerappa Moily. Question number 30. Consider the following statement regarding 9th schedule of Constitution of India. The 9th schedule contains a list of central and state laws which cannot be challenged in courts. Currently, 284 such laws are shielded from judicial review. The schedule became a part of Constitution in 1951. When the document was amended for the first time, it was created by a new Article 31B, which along with 31A was brought in by the government to protect laws related to agrarian reform and for abolishing the zamindari system. Question number 31. A notification regarding commencement or cessation of a state of a war is the responsibility of Minister of External Affairs. As per the allocation of business rules of the Union government, a notification regarding commencement of or cessation of state of war is the responsibility of Ministry of External Affairs. Question number 32. Article 33 empowers the Parliament to modify the applicability of fundamental rights to the members of the force employed in connection with the communication system set up in the country. Question number 33. Which one among the following statements are correct? Article 35 lays down that the power to make laws to give effect to certain specified fundamental rights shall vest only in the Parliament, not in the state legislature. This provision ensures that there is uniformity throughout India with regard to the nature of those fundamental rights and punishments for their infringement. Question number 37. Which of the following provision of the Constitution of India need the ratification by the legislature of not less than one half of the state to effect amendment? Those provisions of the Constitution which are related to federal structure of the polity can be amended by the special majority of the Parliament and also with the consent of the state legislature by a simple majority. These provisions can be amended in this way. First one, election of the president and its manner. Second one, extent of the executive power of the union and the states. Third point, Supreme Court and High Courts. Fourth point, distribution of legislative powers between the union and the state. Fifth point, any of the list of 7th schedule. Sixth point, representation of states in parliament. Seventh point, power of parliament to amend the constitution and its procedure. Question number 35. Which of the following statements regarding the fundamental duties contained in the Constitution of India are correct? In 1976, the Congress Party set up by the Sardar Swaran Singh Committee to make recommendations about fundamental duties, the need and the necessities of which was felt during the operation of internal emergency, that is 1975 to 77. The committee recommended the inclusion of the separate chapter on fundamental duties in the Constitution. It stressed that the citizen should become conscious that in addition to the enjoyment of rights, they also have certain duties to perform as well. The Congress government at center accepted these recommendations and enacted the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1976. This amendment added a new part, namely Part 4A to the Constitution. The fundamental duties in the Indian Constitution are inspired by the Constitution of erstwhile USSR. Unlike some of the fundamental rights which extended to all persons, whether citizen or foreigners, their fundamental duties are concerned to citizens only, do not extend to foreigners. Like the directive principles, the fundamental duties are also non-justiciable. The Constitution does not provide for their direct enforcement by the court. Moreover, there is not legal sanction against their violation. However, the Parliament is free to enforce them by suitable legislation. Question number 36. Which of the following is stated in Directive Principles of State Policy? Answer: promotion of cooperative society, organization of agriculture and animal husbandry, separation of judiciary from executive. Protection of interest of minorities is the fundamental right under Article 29. Promotion of cooperative society is DPSPA, Article 43B. Organization of agriculture and animal husbandry, Article 48. Separation of judiciary from executive, Article 50. Question number 37. In this form of government, the people can elect representatives to vote on laws. Representatives may be replaced during regular election by the people. That is, answer is representative democracy. Representative democracy is a form of democracy in which people vote for representatives who then vote on policy initiatives, as opposed to direct democracy, a form of democracy in which people vote on policy initiative directly. Question number 38. Consider the following statements. The features of the parliamentary government in India are presence of nominal and real executives, majority party rule, collective responsibility of the executive to the legislature, membership of the ministers in the legislature, leadership of the prime minister or the chief minister, dissolution of the lower house, Lok Sabha or assembly. Question number 39. Consider the following statement regarding emergency provision which are established in the Constitution. That is, national emergency can be declared on the ground of war and external aggression or armed rebellion. The 44th Amendment Act 1978 has replaced the original term internal disturbance with the new term armed rebellion as mentioned in Statement 1. Question number 40. Consider the following statement related to the Constitution Amendment Bill. Each house of the Parliament must pass the Constitution Amendment Bill separately. In the case of disagreement between the two houses, there is no provision for the holding a joint sitting of the two houses for passage of the bill. The President is under obligation to give his assent to the Constitution Amendment Bill. He can neither withhold his assent to the Constitution Amendment Bill nor return the bill for reconsideration of the Parliament. If the Constitutional Amendment Bill seeks to amend the federal provision of the Constitution, it must also be ratified by the legislature of half of the states by the simple majority. Question number 41. With reference to Government of India Act 1919, consider the following statement. The Government of India Act 1919 made a provision for classification of the central and provisional subjects. The provisional subjects were divided into two groups. One was reserved and another was transferred. The reserved subjects were kept with the governor and the transferred subjects were kept with the Indian ministers. This division of subject was basically what they meant by introducing the hierarchy. The governor was in charge of the reserved list along with his executive councillors. The subjects under this list were laws and orders, irrigation, finance, land revenue, etc. Question number 42. Consider the following statement regarding Article 32 of the Constitution. The right to constitutional remedies, Article 32. It can be suspended during the national emergency, but it cannot be abridged or taken away even by the way of in an amendment to the Constitution, and Supreme Court has ruled that Article 32 is the basic feature of the Constitution. Article 32 provides the provision that an aggrieved person can directly move to the Supreme Court for the violation of fundamental rights. Article 32 provides the Supreme Court the right to issue writs on the violation of fundamental rights. Separately, under Article 226, similar powers have been conferred to High Court. Article 32 provides the Parliament can empower any other court to issue directions, orders, and writs of all kinds. However, these can be done without prejudice to the above powers conferred on the Supreme Court. Question number 43. Consider the following statements regarding rule of law. It allows three elements or aspects: absence of arbitrary power, that is, no man can be punished except for the breach of law; equality before law, that is, equal subjection of all citizens to the ordinary law of the land administered by the ordinary law courts; the primacy of the right of the individual, that is, the constitution is the result of the rights of the individual as defined and enforced by the courts of law rather than the constitution being the source of individual rights. The first and the second elements apply to the Indian system and not the third one. In the Indian system, the constitution is the source of individual right. Question number 44. Due to which of the following reasons the founding fathers preferred the British parliamentary system? The founding fathers preferred the British parliamentary system because familiarity with the system, preference to more responsibility, necessity to avoid legislative executive conflict. Question number 45. The directive principle resembles the instrument of instruction enumerated in the Government of India Act 1935. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar had said the directive principles are like the instruments of instruction which are issued to the Governor General and to the Governor of the Colonies of India by the British government under the Government of India Act 1935. Question number 46. Consider the following statement regarding right to constitutional remedies. Right to constitutional remedies. Article 32 confers the right to remedies for the enforcement of the fundamental rights of an aggrieved citizen. In other words, the right to get the fundamental right protected is in itself the fundamental right. This makes the fundamental rights real. Moreover, fundamental rights are justiciable. Dr. Ambedkar called the Article 32 the most important article of the Constitution, an article without which this Constitution would be a nullity. It is very soul of the Constitution and the very heart of it. Question number 47. Consider the following statement with respect to Schedule 1 of Indian Constitution. The first schedule of Indian Constitution, it contains the name of states and union territories. Territorial jurisdiction of the state is also included. It includes Article 1 and Article 4. Consider the following. Question number 48. Consider the following. Federal structure of the government is borrowed from the Constitution of United States. The idea of the single citizenship borrowed from the British Constitution. The ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity enshrined in the Constitution of India was borrowed from the Constitution of France. Procedure established by law is borrowed from the Constitution of Japan. Right to education was added to the fundamental right in the Constitution of India through the Constitutional 86th Amendment Act 2002. The 86th Amendment to the Constitution of India in 2002 provided right to education as the fundamental right in Part 3 of the Constitution. A new Article 21A was inserted which made right to education a fundamental right for children between 6 to 14 years. Article 51A also amended, and after clause J and clause K was added, Article 45 DPSP was amended to the state shall endeavour to provide early childhood care and education for all children until they complete the age of 6 years. Question number 50. Jawaharlal Nehru was the chairman of how many of the following committees? Option: State Committee, Union Power Committee, Drafting Committee, Union Constitutional Committee. Answer is only 3 committees. The Union Power Committee, Jawaharlal Nehru. Union of State Constitution Union Constitution Committee Jawaharlal Nehru, State Committees Jawaharlal Nehru. Question number 51. Match list 1 with list 2 and select the correct answer. List 1 types of government, list 2 characteristics. A. Parliamentary government. Answer collective responsibility. B. Presidential government. Answer separation of power. C. Federal system. Division of power. D. Unitary system. Centralization of power. Question number 52. Which of the following are the provisions of 44th Amendment Act 1978? Replaced the 74th Amendment Act 1978 replaced the term internal disturbance by armed rebellion in respect of national emergency. Next, made with the President declaration a national emergency only on the written recommendation of the cabinet. Next point, deleted the right to property from the list of fundamental rights and made it only a legal right. Restored next 43rd Amendment Act is restored the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and the High Court in respect of judicial review and issues of writ. It is the 43rd Amendment Act. Question number 43. Consider the following statements. When an Indian citizen voluntarily, consciously, knowingly, or without duress and undue influence or compulsion acquires the citizenship of another country, his Indian citizenship automatically terminates. This provision, however, does not apply during a war in which India is engaged. By deprivation, it is the compulsory termination of Indian citizenship by the central government. If the citizen has obtained the citizenship by fraud, the citizen has shown disloyalty to the Constitution of India. C. The citizen has unlawful traded or communicated with the enemy during a war. Next, the citizen has within 5 years after registration or naturalization been imprisoned in any country for 2 years. The citizen has been ordinarily resident out of India for 7 years continuously. Question number 54. Consider the following statements. Dadra and Nagar Haveli. The Portuguese ruled this territory until its liberation in 1954. Subsequently, the administration was carried on till 1961 by an administrator chosen by the people themselves. It was converted to the Union Territory of India by the 10th Constitutional Amendment Act 1961. Goa, Daman and Diu. India acquired these territories from the Portuguese by means of police action in 1961 and was declared a Union Territory by 12th Constitutional Amendment Act 1962. Puducherry. The territory of Puducherry comprises the former French establishment in India known as Puducherry, Karaikal, Mahe and Yanam. The French handed over this territory to India in 1954. Subsequently, it was administered as an acquired territory till 1962 when it was made a Union Territory by the 14th Constitutional Amendment Act. Question number 55. Consider the following statements. Article 2 grants two powers to the Parliament. A. The power to admit into Union of India new states. B. The power to establish new states. The first refers to the admission of the state which are already in existence, while the second refers to establishment of the state which were not in existence before. Notably, Article 2 relates to the admission or establishment of new states that are not part of the Union of India. Article 3, on the other hand, relates to the formation of changes in the existing states of the Union of India. In other words, Article 3 deals with the internal readjustment of the territories of constituent states of the Union of India. The Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu Merger of Union Territories Act 2019 has been passed by Parliament recently. Amendment of the Constitution. The Act amends the first schedule to merge the territories of two UTs. They merged territory will form the UT of Dadra, Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Question number 56. Consider the following statements. Even though the Indian parliamentary system is largely based on British pattern, there are some fundamental differences between the two. For example, the Indian parliament is not a sovereign body like the British parliament. Further, the Indian state has an elected head, republic, while the British state has a hereditary head. Moreover, preamble states that the constitution derives its authority from the people of India, so our parliament is not fully sovereign. Note: state of being sovereign means that state having supreme power or authority. The Constitution of India has opted for the British parliamentary system of government rather than the American presidential system of government. The parliamentary system is based on the principle of cooperation and coordination between the legislative and executive organs, while the presidential system is based on the doctrine of separation of powers between the two organs. Question number 57. Consider the following statements. The structural part of the Constitution is to a large extent is derived from the Government of India Act 1935. The Act also provides for the establishment of federal, provincial and joint public service commission. The philosophical part of the Constitution, the fundamental rights and the directive principles of the state policy, derive their inspiration from the American and the Irish Constitution respectively. The political part of the Constitution, that is the principle of cabinet government and the relation between the executive and the legislative, have been largely drawn from the British Constitution. Is in the S.R. Bommai versus Union of India case, which one among the following features of the Constitution of India was upheld by the Supreme Court as the basic structure? Answer: secularism. S.R. Bommai versus Union of India state Supreme Court ruled that secularism is one of the basic features of the Constitution. Hence, the state government pursuing anti-secular politics is liable to action under Article 356. Question number 59. Which of the following laws have been repealed by the Constitution of India? Government of India Act 1935, the Indian Independence Act 1947. With the commencement of the Constitution, the Indian Independence Act of 1947, the Government of India Act of 1935, with all enactments amending or supplementing the later acts, were repealed. The abolition of Privy Council Jurisdiction Act 1949 was continued. First Preventive Detention Act was passed in 1950. The validity of this act was challenged in the Supreme Court in the Gopalan versus State of Madras Court. The Supreme Court held this act constitutionally valid except some provisions. The act expired in 1969. Before it expired, it was amended for 7 times. Each expansion was to make it valid for 3 more years, and this was extended till 31 December 1969. Question number 60. Consider the following statement with respect to freedom of speech and expression. According to Article 19 of Clause 1A, all citizens have the right to freedom of speech and expression. This implies that all citizens have the right to express their views and opinion freely. This includes not only words of mouth but also speech by the way of writing, picture, movies, banners, etc. The right to speech also includes the right not to speak. The Supreme Court of India has held the participation in sports in an expression of oneself and hence in a form of freedom of speech. Question number 61. Which of the following rights are granted to citizens under Article 19(1)(a)? The right to freedom of speech and expression also includes the right to communicate, print and advertise information. The right also includes commercial as well as artistic speech and expression. Question number 62. Consider the following statements. The structural part of Constitution is to a large extent derived from the Government of India Act 1935. The philosophical part of the Constitution, the philosophical part of the Constitution, the fundamental right and the directive principle of the state policy derive their inspiration from the American and Irish Constitution, respectively. The political part of the Constitution, that is the principle of cabinet government and relation between the executive and legislature, have been largely drawn from the British Constitution. Article 4 of the Constitution deals with the directive principle of the state policy. The purpose of the directive principle of the state policy is to lay down positive instructions which would guide state policy at all levels. The fundamental rights are not absolute and subject to reasonable restriction. Further, they are not sacrosanct and can be curtailed or repealed by the Parliament through a Constitutional Amendment Act. They can also be suspended during the operation of national emergency except the rights guaranteed by Article 20 and 21. Question number 63. Consider the following statement about Indian Council Act 1861. It made a beginning of representative institutions by associating Indians with lawmaking. Viceroy nominated some Indians as non-official members of his expanded council. Increased non-official member in the council. It is the feature of Indian Council of 1892. Question number 64. Consider the following pairs. Part 12 is Finance, Property, Contracts and Suits. Part 1, the Union and its territory. Question number 65. Which of the following is correct about right to education? Right to education provides for free and compulsory education for children between 6 to 14 years of age. It provides in Article 21A. It is provided by 86th Amendment. Question number 66. Which of the following features are borrowed from Irish Constitution? Answer: directive principles of the state policy, nomination of members of Rajya Sabha, method of election of president. Question number 67. Which of the following are correctly matched? Ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity contained in the preamble. Independence of judiciary, USA. Question number 68. Second schedule of the Constitution does not include provision in relation to allowance, privilege and emolument of. Answer: Governor, Speaker, Comptroller General of India. Second schedule of Indian Constitution. The provision in relation with the allowance, privilege, emoluments of President of India, Governor of Indian State, Speaker of Lok Sabha and Deputy Speakers of Deputy Speaker of Lok Sabha, Chairman of Rajya Sabha and Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha, Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Legislative Assembly of Indian State, Chairman and Deputy Chairman of Legislative Council of Indian States, Supreme Court Judges, High Court Judges, Comptroller and Auditor General of India. Consider the following statement with respect to 7th schedule. 7th schedule. This schedule deals with the 3 legislative lists, the Union State concurrent list. Question number 70. Consider the following statement with reference to preamble. The preamble is the introductory and expressionary statement in a document that explains the document's purpose and underlying philosophy. American Constitution was the first to begin with the preamble. Many countries, including India, followed this practice. November 26, 1949 is mentioned in the preamble as the date on which the people of India in the Constitution Assembly adopted, enacted and gave themselves this constitution. Question number 71. Which of the following embodies the basic philosophy of the Constitution? Answer: preamble. The values expressed in the preamble are expressed as philosophy of the Constitution. These are sovereignty, socialism, secularism, democracy, republic, character of Indian states, justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, human dignity and unity and integrity of the nation. Question number 72. Consider the following statement regarding Article 5 of the Indian Constitution. Article 5 talks about citizenship for people at the commencement of the Constitution, that is 26 January 1950. Under this, citizenship is conferred upon those persons who have their domicile in Indian territory, who are born in Indian territory, uh, whose parents was born in Indian territory, or those who ordinarily being a resident of India for not less than 5 years immediately preceding the commencement of Constitution. Article 6, it deals with the citizenship of certain persons who have migrated to Pakistan. Article 8 deals with citizenship of certain person of Indian origin residing outside India. Question number 73. Consider the following statements. The Constituent Assembly of India adopted Hindi in Devanagari script along with English as the official language of the country on September 14, 1949 under Article 343(1). 343 Clause 1. According to Article 343, Hindi in Devanagari script is the official language of the Union. Article 351 gives power of the Union government to issue a directive for the development of Hindi language. Under Article 351, it is the duty of the Union to encourage the spread of the Hindi language so that it may serve as the medium of communication. Article 75. Which of the following functions were performed by Constituent Assembly? In addition to the making of the Constitution and enacting of ordinary laws, the Constituent Assembly also performed the following function. It ratified the India's membership of the Commonwealth in May 1949. It adopted the national flag on July 22, 1947. It adopted the national anthem on January 24, 1950. It adopted the national song on January 24, 1950. It elected Dr. Rajendra Prasad as the first President of India on January 24, 1950. Question number 75. On 26 November 1949, which of the following provision of the Constitution of India came into effect? Citizenship, election, provisional parliament. Though the Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950, some provisions relating to citizenship, election, provisional parliament, temporary transitional powers were given immediate effect on 26 November 1949. Question number 76. Which of the following are central tenets of the Constitution of India? Secular character of the Constitution is a part of basic structure of Constitution. Article 25 says that all persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and right to freely profess, practice and propagate religion. The term secular too was added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act of 1976. The Indian Constitution embodies the positive concept of secularism, that is, all religions in our country, irrespective of their strength, have the same status and support from the state, and no official status was given to certain religion. Question number 77. Freedom of conscience under Constitution of India is subjected to public order, morality and health, a law providing for social welfare and reform, opening Hindu religious institution of public character to all Hindus. Article 25 of Indian Constitution says freedom of conscience and free profession, practice and propagation of religion subject to public order, morality and health and to the other provision of this part. All persons are equally entitled to freedom of conscience and right freely to profess, practice and propagate religion. Nothing in this article shall affect the operation of any existing law or prevent the state from making any law regulating or restricting any economic, financial, and political or other secular activity which may be associated with religious practice, providing for social welfare and reform, or the throwing open of Hindu religious institutions of a public character to all classes and sections of Hindus. Explanation. First one, the wearing and carrying of the kripan shall be deemed to be excluded in the profession of the Sikh religion. Explanation 2, in subclause B of clause reference to Hindu shall be construed as including a reference person professing the Sikh, Jain or Buddhist religion, and the reference to Hindu religion institution shall be construed accordingly. Question number 78. Which of the following statements with regard to citizenship provision of the Constitution of India are correct? Article 9 of the Constitution states that no person shall be citizen of India or be deemed to be citizen of India if he has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of any foreign state. Article 11 of Constitution states that Parliament shall have the power to make any provision with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship and all other matters relating to citizenship. So Parliament is the sole authority to make any law on citizenship provision in India. Question number 79. What are the major differences between written and unwritten constitution? Written constitution refers to the constitution codified and compiled in a structured and cohesive manner. Written constitution have been properly framed and compiled in step-by-step matter with any subsequent changes being added almost instantaneously. So we can say that written constitution is a product of deliberate human action. The unwritten constitution is a result of growth. The written constitution is drafted by an agency such as constituent assembly. Unwritten constitution is a combination of custom and convention which are not drafted by any body in particular. A written constitution is supreme and formal source of all constitutional law in the country. The parliament is a supreme in the country where there is an unwritten constitution and judiciary has limited power. Question number 80. Which one among the following is not a fundamental duty of the citizen of India? Answer: to practice family planning and to control population. The fundamental duty in the Indian Constitution are inspired by the Constitution of erstwhile USSR. 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976 included 10 fundamental duties. According to Article 51A, it shall be duty of every citizen of India. First point, to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the flag, the national flag, the national anthem. Second point, to cherish and follow the noble ideas that inspired the national struggle for freedom. Third point, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. Fourth point, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Fifth point, to promote harmony and spirit of common brotherhood amongst all the people of India, transcending religious, linguistic, and regional or sectional diversities, and to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of woman. Sixth point, to value and preserve the rich heritage of the country's composite culture. Sixth point, to seventh point, to protect and improve the natural environment including forest, lake, river, wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. Eighth point, to develop scientific temper, humanism, spirit of inquiry and reform. Ninth point, to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. Tenth point, to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rise to higher level of endeavor and achievement. 11th point, to provide opportunities for education to his child or ward between the age of 6 and 14 years, and this point is added by 86 Constitutional Amendment Act 2002. Question number 81. Which of the following are features of the Indian Constitution? Answer: integrated judiciary, universal adult franchise, three-tier government, rigid and flexible constitution, single citizenship. Question number 82. Which of the following are included in right to life? The Supreme Court has reaffirmed its judgment in the Menaka case. In the subsequent case, it declared that the following rights as a part of Article 21: right to live with human dignity, right to decent environment including pollution-free water, air, and protection against hazardous industry, right to livelihood, right to privacy, right to shelter, right to health, right to free education up to 14 years of age, right to free legal aid, right against solitary confinement, right to speedy trial, right against handcuffing, right against inhuman treatment, right against delayed execution, right to travel abroad, right against bonded labor, right against custodial harassment, right to emergency medical right to timely medical treatment in government hospital, right not to be driven out of the state, right to fair trial, right of prisoner to have necessity of life, right of woman to be treated with decency and dignity, right against public hanging, right to road in hilly areas, right to information, right to reputation, right to right of appeal fetters, right to right of appeal from a judgment of conviction, right to family pension, right to social and economic right to social and economic justice and empowerment, right against bar fetters, right to appropriate life insurance policy, right to sleep, right to freedom from noise pollution, right to sustainable development, right to opportunity. Question number 83. Which principle among the following was added to the directive principles of the state policy by the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution? The 42nd Amendment to the Constitution added 3 new DPSPs to the existing list of DPSPs and amended 1 DPSP. The following are the DPSPs added by the 42nd Amendment. First one, healthy development of children, that is Article 39, promote equal justice and to provide free legal aid to poor, Article 39A, participation of workers in the management of industries, that is Article 43A, protection and improvement of environment and to safeguard forest and wildlife, Article 48A. Question number 84. Which of the following constitutional subject amendment pairs are correctly matched? Answer: 52nd Amendment, Anti-Defection Law. 73rd Amendment, Panchayat Raj institution were given constitutional status. 56th, Statehood for Goa. 97th Constitutional Amendment, cooperative societies were granted constitutional status. Question number 85. Consider the following statements. Berubari Union Case 1960. The Supreme Court said that the preamble shows the general purpose behind the several provisions in the Constitution and is thus a key to the minds of the maker of the Constitution. Further, whether the term used in any article as ambiguous or capable of more than one meaning. Hence, despite this recognition of the significance of the preamble, the Supreme Court specially opinioned that the preamble is not part of Constitution. In the Keshanandi Bharti case, that is 1973, the Supreme Court rejected the earlier opinion in the Golaknath case 1967, which held that Parliament could not amend fundamental rights, and this power would be only with the Constituent Assembly. In the Keshananda Bharti case, it held that the preamble is a part of Constitution and is of the preamble of the extreme importance. Question number 86. Consider the following statement. The ideal of justice, social, economic, political, has been taken from Russian Revolution. The political justice implies that all citizens should have the equal political right, equal access to all political offices, and equal voice in the government. Question number 87. Consider the following statements regarding legislative power of center and state during national emergency. The Parliament becomes empowered to make laws on any subject mentioned in the state list. The President can issue ordinance on state subjects also if the Parliament is not in session. The laws made on state subjects by the Parliament become inoperative 6 months after the emergency has been ceased to be in operation. The power of the state legislature to make laws on the same matter is not restricted or suspended. But in case of repugnancy between the state law and the parliamentary law, the latter is to prevail. Question number 88. Consider the following statements. As Pitt's India Act made the Court of Director was restricted to commercial function, not the Charter Act of 1833. Pitt's India Act 1784 succeeded 1773 Regulating Act. Features of this act were as follows. Pitt India Act restricted the Court of Directors to commercial function as it was done earlier, but it created a new body called the Board of Control to manage civil, military, revenue, and political affairs of the company for the first time, and hence this gave the British government supreme control over company's affairs for the first time. Charter Act 1793. A provision in the Charter Act of 1793 was made that the company, after paying the necessary expenses, interest, dividends and salaries etc. from the Indian revenue, will pay 5 lakh British pounds annually out of the surplus revenue to the British government. However, the Act also had a provision that the Crown would order the application of the whole of the revenue for defense if the circumstances posed such demands. Act of 1793 also renewed the company's commercial privilege for the next 10 years. Question number 89. Which of the following statements are correct with respect to Article 16? Article 16. Equality of opportunity in matter of public employment. Parliament can prescribe residence as a condition for certain employment or appointment in a state or UTs or local authority only in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The state can provide for reservation of appointments or posts in favor of any backward class that is not adequately represented in state services. Third point, a law can provide that the incumbent of an office related to religious or denominational institution or a member of its governing body should belong to a particular religion or denomination. that a law can be provided that the incumbent of an office related to religious or denominational institution or a member of its governing body should belong to particular region or denomination. State is permitted to make a provision for the reservation of up to 10% of the appointments in post of favor of any economically weaker section of citizen. Question number 90. Article 33. Under Article 33, which institution can restrict or abrogate the fundamental rights of the members of the police force? Answer: Parliament. Article 33 empowers the Parliament to restrict or abrogate the fundamental rights of the members of armed force, paramilitary force, police force, intelligence agency, analogous forces. The power to make laws under Article 33 is conferred only on Parliament and not on state legislature. Any such laws made by Parliament cannot be challenged in any court on the ground of contravention of any of the fundamental rights. A parliamentary law enacted under Article 33 can also exclude the court martial tribunal established under the military law from the writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and High Court as far as the enforcement of fundamental rights is concerned. Question number 91. Which of the following statements are correct? Capitalism. Capitalism is an economic system based on private ownership of the means of production and their operation for profit. Communism means the political system in which the state owns and controls all factories, farms, and service, etc. And aims to treat everyone equally. Socialism means political, social, and economic philosophy encompassing a range of economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production. Question number 93. Which of the following statements are featured in Westminster model of government? In such model, the president is the de jure executive while the prime minister is the de facto executive. A person cannot be minister without being a member of parliament. The ministers are collectively responsible for the parliament in general. The lower house of the parliament can be dissolved by the president on the recommendation of the prime minister. Therefore, in parliamentary form of government, the executive enjoys the right to get the legislature dissolved. Question number 93. There are different arguments given in favor of power sharing in the democratic political system. Which of the following? It reduces conflict among different communities. Majority community does not impose its will on others. Since all are affected by the policies of the government, they should be consulted in the governance of the country. The decision-making power is slow in democracy as it involves long debates and deliberation in the parliament. Question number 94. Which of the following are envisaged as being part of the right against exploitation in the Constitution of India? Right against exploitation, Article 23-24. Article 23 prohibits traffic in human being, forced labor, and other similar forms of forced labor. Any contravention of this provision shall be an offence punishable in accordance with law. Article 24 prohibits the employment of children below the age of 14 years in any factory, mine, and other hazardous activity like construction work or railway, but it does not prohibit their employment in any harmless or innocent work. Article 17, under right to equality, abolishes untouchability and forbids its practice in any form. Protection of language, script, and culture of minorities. Article 29, right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions. Article 95, which of the following feature is contrary to norms of a federal polity? The center and the state have their separate public services, but in addition, there are all India services IAS, IPS, IFS, which are common to both the center and the state. The members of these services are recruited and trained by the center, which also possesses ultimate control over them. Thus, these services violate the principle of federalism under the Constitution. The Indian Constitution has established an integrated judicial system with the Supreme Court at the top and the state high court below it. This single system of courts enforces both the central laws as well as the state laws. In US, on the other hand, there is a double system of courts whereby the federal laws are enforced by the federal judiciary and the state laws by the state judiciary. Question number 96. The Constitution of India is republican because it has no hereditary elements. A republic also means two more things. One, vesting of political sovereignty in the people and not in a single individual like a king. Second, the absence of any privileged class, or hence all public offices being open to every citizen without any discrimination. In the republic and the head of the state, it always elected directly or indirectly for a fixed period. As India has no hereditary elements, the Constitution of India is republican. Question number 97. Despite being a republican state, India is a member of a commonwealth of nations whose head is a British monarch. This is because this member does not affect the sovereign nature of the Indian Republic. Under the London Declaration, the India agreed that when it became the Republic in January 1950, it would accept the British sovereignty as a symbol of free association of its independent member nation and as such the head of the Commonwealth. The other Commonwealth countries recognize India's continuing membership of the association. Question number 19. The Constituent Assembly of India was chosen on the basis of provisional election of 1946. With the withdrawal of Muslim League from the Constituent Assembly, it turned out the majority of the assembly members were also members of the Congress. Under that circumstances, how was the Constituent Assembly given a broader social basis? By nominating independent members of different caste, religious groups, and women, and also by taking a representatives of the princely states and asking for written submission from the public at large. Although the Constituent Assembly was not directly elected by people of India on the basis of adult franchises, the Assembly comprised representatives of all sections of the society: Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Parsis, Anglo-Indians, Indian Christians, STs, including women of all these sections. The representatives of princely state were to be nominated by the heads of the princely state. The assembly included all important personalities of India at that time. With the exception of Mahatma Gandhi, the drafting committee, after taking into consideration the proposal of the various committees, prepared the first draft of the Constitution of India, which was published in February 1948. The people of India were given 8 months to discuss the draft and propose amendments. In the light of the public comments, criticism, and suggestions, the drafting committee prepared the second draft, which was published in October 1948. Question number 99. Which of the following words are not added to the Indian Constitution by the 42nd Amendment in 1976? Answer: Republic, Fraternity. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment added 3 new words: socialist, secular, integrity in the preamble. Question number 100. Protection of lakes is an objective expressly stated in which of the following? Fundamental duties.